Injury is inevitable. They happen in all relationships. Successful couples repair them. And so you need to do that through validating, listening, apologizing, owning, stopping the bad behavior, stop doing the stuff that's destructive, stop accusing your partner. I recently had a situation with a client, actually 2 of them in the same week. That's why I'm talking about this. It's like right there in front of my visual field here. They had situations with their spouses where they were talking to them and their spouse said something that was akin to "you think I'm," or "you're just trying to." Anyway, the spouse tried to get in my client's head and said, "You think this," or "you are just trying to that." And what was interesting is both of these people had these boundaries that they'd set for themselves, which was very similarly, I don't argue, was one of them, and the other one was, I don't have conversation when I'm emotional. And so both of them felt themselves getting kind of wound up a little bit and was like, nope, done, no. And actually the spouse that said, I don't argue, the interesting thing was she wasn't emotional. She was just recognizing that, that's something I disagree with, not going there. And so she put a pause in the conversation. Hey, I love you. And the other one did too. It's, merging these together. But basically what was said was, hey, I love you. And I don't think that's a good time to have this conversation. I'll talk to you later. And so, boom, stop, end, right? What's interesting is that is a really effective first step, because here's what happened. When both of them had been applying these particular boundaries for themselves, I don't argue, I don't have conversations when I'm emotional, for a little while. And then what happened as a result of that is they became aware of what was actually occurring in front of them from their spouse towards them. So the awareness of the verbal pattern that was starting the argument was an accusation. And if we take a minute and we listen to what does the Bible call Satan, he's the accuser of the brethren. He runs around in front of God all day saying stuff about how we're terrible. That's what he does. And so we can give in to that and give voice to it and then be useful to him, or we can decide, no, I'm not going to play. I just am not going to do that. And so what's interesting is when we listen to, well, first of all, we have to have the self-awareness. That's key to step number 1. I'm going to be self-aware. So within me, I'm aware, here's my opportunity to not argue. I'm not going to have conversation when I'm emotional. So self-awareness is the first step. The second thing is what's happening in reality around me. And there's a notice of the pattern, which is usually accusation or blame. That's step 2, is the notice of the pattern. And it's usually accusation or blame from the other person towards us. If you engage in that, if you feel like you need to defend yourself, if you speak into that and justify, explain, whatever, those are defensive behaviors on your part, and what's going to happen is you're going to spiral it up. You're going to escalate it. That's just what happens. Like, that's relational math. Argument plus defensiveness, or accusation plus defensiveness equals conflict at a higher level. Keep, rinse, well, repeat. It's just going to keep getting worse. If you choose to put a stop in there, you can come back to it later, and I do recommend highly, because if you're going to get your relationship right, you've got to get the data implemented in it, which is that if you're repairing your relationship issues, you're going to be more successful. That is key, is couples have to repair the damage that's been done. When those apologies aren't said, when ownership isn't taken over mistakes that are made, when there's blame instead of taking responsibility, when accusations are flying, when nobody's owning their stuff, when there's sorry, it's over. Like, for real. You're going to be siloed. You're not going to have intimacy. You're not going to have connection. That's just human beings at work and how relationships go. If you do the repair work, that is at the most basic level what's necessary to have a successful relationship, is repairing injury. Injury is inevitable. They happen in all relationships. Successful couples repair them. And so you need to do that through validating, listening, apologizing, owning, stopping the bad behavior, stop doing the stuff that's destructive, stop accusing your partner. So here's some data for you if you need some data around this. University of Chicago professor Nicholas Epley, does this study. He discovered that when you're interacting with strangers, 20% of the time you can correctly discern what someone else is feeling or thinking, interacting with strangers. If you're interacting with close friends, 30% of the time you can discern accurately what somebody's thinking or feeling. If you're married, 35% of the time you can accurately discern what someone's thinking or feeling. And that there's a 5% margin of error. And so it's still an F, y'all. Those are not very good odds. The odds when we accuse somebody else, when we say, you're just, you think, you always, you never, we're wrong about the motives, about the thoughts that are going on in somebody's head. And then when we verbalize them, we injure the other person. So what do you do with that when it comes out at you? Really, really simple, amazing, simple tool is, first of all, control your own emotionality. Take a break from the conversation after you've noticed, right? Come back to it. And when you come back to it, you bring up, you mentioned that you were feeling XYZ, or you mentioned that this was bothering, and let's talk about that. If they accuse you again, here's the question. You say, how do you know that? When they say, you think I'm lazy, you think I'm so terrible, and you think I'm never going to XYZ, the response to that is, honey, how do you know that? What is the evidence that I'm giving you that that is what I think of you? And they're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to get a pause. And then if I was you, I would fill that pause with, it hurts me to think that you think that lowly of me. It hurts me to know I think those terrible things about you, because I don't. If you want to know what I really am talking about or what's real for me, I'm happy to have that conversation. But I don't want you in my head telling me what I think, because it's not accurate. So that's a what to say and how to say it in those cognitive distortions of blame and accusation that destroy relationships. If you don't do something with them, if you just ignore them, what happens is you're creating a bigger chasm in your relationship. You've got to address this stuff. You've got to have conversation around it. And sometimes people in our life need to be encouraged to go think differently. And we set boundaries around it. I'm happy to talk about the problem and the behavior and the evidence of that. I'm not going to have conversation about what you think is happening in my head. So when we do that, when we have a boundary that's healthy there, we're encouraging healthy, normal, healthy. I don't know if it's normal to be healthy, honestly, just saying. But we're encouraging healthier behavior in our dialogues. And what's interesting, too, is that I ran across a scripture, Isaiah 47:10, that says, your wisdom and knowledge mislead you when you say to yourself, I am, and there's none besides me. Meaning, if you think you're all that in a bag of chips, you're probably on the throne. Your wisdom, quote unquote, wisdom is misleading you. And I would stop listening to that, because most of the time we're wrong when we think we know what somebody else is thinking, especially when the motives are not good. So anyway, just tossing that out there. If you want more tips on how to deeply connect with the people around you, go to our website, greaterimpact.org, and feel free to download our free PDF, How to Stop Walking on Eggshells. It's everything we know about how to improve the communication relationships in your life in terms of a broad stroke. So anyway, hope that helps, and we'll see you soon.